Hello and welcome everybody today to the Speaking Truth to Power podcast with me, Alex Frace, and my fellow co-host,
Victoria Fenton. Sorry, we're giggling. We didn't discuss beforehand who was doing the intro, so I was wildly signalling. If you were watching YouTube, you will have heard during our opening music, I was wildly signaling to Alex it was his turn.
My turn, baby. My time to shine. And as you can see, I have an amazing, terrible singing voice. But we're not going to be talking about that today. That is not the topic of our podcast. The topic of our podcast today is Dark Nights of the Soul. And do you really need to go through the gutter for everybody?
Which we alluded to in our last episode. And if you haven't listened to that, why not? Like, you're letting us down.
Yeah, shame on you. Shame on all of you. Yeah, we are shaming you.
However, we recognize that the title of the last one might not have attracted some of you because it was all about healthcare education and training and stuff like that. But we did touch on some really relevant points for spirit, soul, evolution, transformational healing stuff. So we have decided to talk all about that because things that we mentioned, because it's a really important topic, guys. Like, you should care about this. Like, you want to know. Because we had said that both Alex and I have done our own gutter dwelling. This has become a theme of the podcast. If you've been listening for the last few episodes, we talk about being in the gutter. And I sort of mentioned, because it's something that's on my mind at the moment, that I don't think it's necessary to hang out in the gutter for everyone. And I think that, I didn't quite say this, but I think it's actually common that people can fetishize gutters in this kind of...
Love the gutter.
Yeah, in this spiritual world. And they believe that, being in pain, emotional pain, is the root of freedom. And that's not true, I don't think.
No, it almost feels as if it gives them validity for where they are in their lives and their suffering and, and all of it. And I'll put my hands up. I have been guilty of doing it. So I can speak from experience. It makes you feel special. This is where the spiritual ego then comes in, because it makes you feel special, makes you feel better than others. Like, I'm really doing the work, and this is the work, which is doing the work. And, the work is all about doing the work. And all your life is about doing the work as opposed to actually doing real work in the real world.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious, because that's not it, guys. It's about, you need to do both. You can't just decide, oh, I am going to, do the work, and I'm doing all the work for the collective, and therefore I am entitled to everything and anything.
And also, like, I can hang out in my depression and my emotional solitude because I'm doing work on behalf of the collective. And all of these phrases could be said in very, very genuine ways, but most of the time they are not. And I, but to put context on this, I'm someone who at the age of 18 was told that she was here to do work on behalf of the collective. And that is a huge pressure. And if somebody is really here doing work on behalf of the collective, bet your bottom dollar that they are struggling massively with humanness. And that is where the work is. Doing the work is being human, not sitting in front of like a shrine, contemplating your navel, believing that you're doing work on behalf of the collective.
Yeah, that's just spiritual bypassing and complete egotistical bullshit. To be completely, I don't want to say unbiased, but to be frank is what I will say.
I thought your name was Alex.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry, that was such a dad joke. My dad listening to this will literally be congratulating me for just going, well played. Sorry. So yes, to be frank for a minute. Go.
To be frank, so Frank comes from the East End of London. He was raised.
And putting ourselves together. Be frank.
Exactly. And to be frank, it's all an illusion which you paint for yourself to make yourself feel special, because you may not have felt special before in your life, and you feel like this is your calling and this is the reason why you are different, and all of this and all of that. But realistically, you're just projecting your own traumas out onto everyone because you haven't actually dealt with it.
Yeah. And there's a huge... So the key word that we've not used yet is victim. And I don't think we've mentioned it on any podcast yet, but it's such a supremely important distinction to make, as in,
Yeah.
are you feeling like you're a victim of your wounding, or are you actually using it as something that is happening for you?
Yeah.
Change is moving through you. And people who are in that victim mode, which we all have to be in, and we will pull this back and talk about genuine dark nights of the soul eventually. But, you know, if you stick in victim mode and be in this kind of feeling like the world is doing things to you, even if your world is not, you know, blaming the boss, blaming the family, it's blaming spirit, it's blaming consciousness, it's blaming your evolution, it's blaming your incarnation, you're still stuck in a separation mode, a modality where you're literally that thing, and even if you call that thing spirit, is creating hardship for me. Congratulations, you've leveled up and it's not that other human, but you're still in victim mode.
Yeah, like it's you. You know, I always kind of like
It's always your fault.
it's always your fault. Like, just own your shit.
Own your
Get
shit.
over it. Own your shit. Get over yourself. It's all your fault. For for better or for worse. And you can't say, oh, but Frank said this to me, and then Josephine did that to me, and Bertie said he would do that for me. Yeah, I know. And it's not like, get over it. You are in charge of yourself.
Yeah. And a really valid part of genuine dark nights of the soul are the ones where you start in victim mode and you start by believing everything is everyone else. I had a hilarious call last week, which I was coaching somebody, and they were like in this loop of all the shit that was happening. And I kept trying to say, like, and this might be on you, and this might be coming, and you might be projecting that. And they would just not. And a little bit of movement, but this person is here to do real work, powerful, amazing, gorgeous, beautiful work on this planet. So me telling him stuff is pointless and ridiculous. The next time we chatted and connected, he'd been through the dark night of the soul, where he was like, everything is everyone else and everyone's shit and everyone's really like this and everyone's everyone else. And he did the work, and he got to the point where he said to me, yeah, I realized that it was my shit. And I was like, yeah, it was it? Did I maybe say that? And people who are really in dark nights of the soul cannot tell them. They have to go through it. And I love that. Is that everyone's journey? No. And that's kind of why when you've been doing this for a while, you tend to resonate with the people who are on your, how deep do we need to go into this gutter level? But it doesn't mean that you minimize or a defeatist or anything like that to the people who are not doing life at your depth. Like that, this is not like a value proposition of like,
it's not a competition. It's not a competition.
Yeah. And like, honestly, guys, if you're new into spirituality, or you're like you could be forgiven for thinking that spiritual stuff is a competition and you have to be, having wins all the time and breakthroughs and cognitive like paradigm shifts and all that kind of stuff. That's not, there's not a like,
no, it's not a linear regression, to use a statistical analysis chart, term. It's not a linear regression where it's just like upwards and onwards. It's it's a child's drawing of what they think a straight line is, which is never a freaking straight line. It's it's a terrible drawing which you say, oh, this is so pretty, darling, I'm going to put this on the fridge. It goes round and backwards and then up, and it goes down, and you're like, where am I going? It doesn't matter where you're going, you're just going there. Like, just buckle up and be okay with where you're going. And I think the important part is, within the dark night of the soul, like, you accept that stuff is going to happen, and you accept that you play a part in that. How deep you go is up to you. If you want to go balls to the wall, right down to the root, into the the halls of Hades, by all means, please do. No, if that's what you want to do it. If you don't want to do that, you don't need to do it. And there are other ways of doing work on yourself without having to completely dig your own grave and then have to excavate your way out of it.
Sure. And that's interesting actually, because like so many of the people I speak with really have gone through like shitty stuff and really had,
Oh yeah, 100%.
and there's like it sometimes doesn't occur to me even that the reason people go through shit is education. It's like they didn't know that there was another way. They've built in like protective barriers. They've tried to, you know, save themselves from what they felt was traumatic, whether it was or wasn't. And that's a whole other topic of like, what is trauma? Is
Yeah.
trauma, does trauma have to be overt to be traumatic? And the answer is no. And then you just like, there's other ways to do, there's other ways to approach life from a heart-centered perspective, which is what we again said last time. And okay, so challenge to you, give me some other ways for people to do heart-centered work without feeling like they need to have been the victim of like crazy circumstances to do this work.
So a nice easy way that I find is especially connecting with plants, connecting with nature. In the way that Mother Nature always has your back and will always look after you. She will give you the lessons that you need, the lessons that you require to grow, and she's not going to drag you through the gutter unless, you know, she feels you need to, type of thing. She will always give you exactly what you need. And I'm speaking from a spiritual herbalist perspective. You know, like when I connect to the plant spirits, they don't just go, oh, by the way, buddy, straight to Hades and straight to hell. They don't do that. It's because you create that, you know, it's a form of creating a relationship from a heart-centered space of, hi, my name's Alex, your name is, and the plant will tell you my name is, let's just say it's yarrow for an example. You know, if you're connected to the consciousness of the plant, or if you're connected to the plant directly may have a slightly different name than the consciousness of the plant. But that's getting into probably a whole new topic. But you know, you create that heart-centered relationship and you start asking, okay, well, what is it that I need? Like, what do I need? Not what do I want, what do I think I want, but please, what do I need? And it will show you what you need. And if it's literally just you need to go in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself 5 times per day for 5 minutes, that's what you do. If it's I just need you to hold my hand, you literally reenact holding your hand in whatever way that is being shown to you, that is being taught to you. If it's you need to go into nature and just spend half an hour a day, go and do it. Because then you get to be in that heart-centered space. You get to, you know, in essence, you're almost reparenting yourself, but you're reparenting yourself through connection to nature, which is more, I believe, more powerful than just a simple reparenting technique. Because you're connecting to the greater good. You're creating to Mother Earth, the planet on which we live on. So it's much more literally rooted down into everything, because there are roots, there's the mycelium, there's a whole network you connect to it, and the network will literally help you do the work more quickly, more easily. And that is one way in which you can do it super, super simply.
And that's really interesting because I'm not a herbalist. And I haven't spent time around plants in the way that you have. And so, and again, we've said this before, but just to share for our listeners, that like you don't have to resonate with every single thing that we say or every way that we approach it, because I wouldn't choose to do what Alex has just suggested that we do, because it's not my language. Like it wouldn't translate and resonate with me as a route in. And that doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make me right. It doesn't make me terrible as a human because I can't connect to yarrow. Like it just means that we all have different access points, and we all have a way to access us, like a tactile way to access our nervous system. And sometimes it's like you were saying, you know, plants and speaking with plants, etc. Other times it doesn't need to be that. It can be very different.
Yeah, like what would it you know, like what would you say would be a way for people to do it, let's say in your way?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Like I think people don't spend enough time with themselves. So it's almost exactly the same principle as you've just gone through. The goals are the same, if you like. The end result, what we're trying to get to, is the same. But for me, like journaling is one of the most interesting, important things that people can do. Like, and whether you want to do it, you know, morning pages style, wake up first thing in the morning and just write whatever's on your head, on the top of your head, or whether it's those specific moments where you get stuck in the day and you're like, oh no, I need to like work this out. It's like the art of pen on paper, handwriting things connects you to yourself, where you can hear what you need. Because I think that what do you need, what do you need question is so valuable, and yet there's tons of junk in the way between what you actually need and all of the answers that your brain will give you first. And sometimes writing stuff down could just get that junk out of the way so that you can then ask the question, what do you need? But also that great ability to, like, sometimes you need dark nights of the soul because you haven't actually gone into the emotions at every point where you felt them along your day, and suddenly that hits a moment where it's like, this is like unbearable and I'm going to sink into like depressive states. So I have a real big thing about like, feel the feelings that come up in your everyday life. Just feel them for once and don't run away from them. Don't think, like you were saying about Mother Nature, I say the same things about human emotions. It's like you are completely safe within your emotional world.
Yeah.
Even if you've had historic trauma, and I know that people are going to get a bit, oh, maybe I'm not safe in my own emotions because I've had this huge trauma thing in the past. I swear to you, the fact that you are saying it's this huge trauma thing makes it huge and huger and huger. And I'm not denigrating it. I'm not making it, minimizing it. I just always feel like the shadow that's behind you is always bigger than if you turn around and shine a bright light on it. So actually just having the faith to just go into your emotional realm, you are not going to harm yourself by letting your emotions out and vent them and release them and feel them and let them physically flow through your body. Like, so many of the illnesses that we see in healthcare practice is because people are just sticking somewhere. They're just holding on because they can't release that, let that go, let that move through. So many of the things, I mean, we mentioned SIBO last time and I didn't come back to it, but there's this kind of like, what are you holding? Like, where are you, like, why are you holding? What's there? And it's so common that people feel like if they open that floodgate, they will be drowned. And actually, the more you open that floodgate, the more healthy tears can flow or healthy anger can be released. Because if you internalize those emotions, the only person that's witnessing them is you internally. And that's really dangerous, really damaging. It's more dangerous to bottle everything up than to release.
100%. And there's so much I want to comment on what you just said. Feeling your feelings, that is one of the questions I ask within my consultation form to my clients. I'm like, so do you allow yourself to feel your feelings? Most people are like,
Stealing that.
yeah, it's like, yes. So like, so that's a no, because if you have to deliberate over it, it's a no, and it's always underlined by a deeper sense of fear. And because of iridology, so for those who don't know, it's a study of the iris. I get my clients to, because I can't see them in person right now, so they send me photos of the iris, and there's always a marking for the people who struggle with this type of stuff within the kidney area, and the kidney area is fear, but also perfectionism, which to me ties in perfectly because your perfectionism creates fear, and fear creates perfectionism, and blah blah blah. And you don't allow yourself to feel it, and you think, oh God, I'm going to actually be overwhelmed. It's like they feel as though they have this massive dam and all the water's there, and if they open the dam, it's just gonna burst the dam. But if you actually understand the mechanics of a dam, you just let out a little bit at a time in a controlled fashion, and it's really not as big a deal as you think it's going to be. And the other thing, in tying into that, is the aspect of, if you see it, as you said, if you see it as this massive thing, it's this big, huge trauma, you are elevating that to a level, 5x, 10x than what it actually is.
And
You're creating it to be,
giving it your power.
exactly. You're just building it. It literally is almost like a cancerous cell. Like, it just grows, it grows, it grows, it grows, it grows. Whereas the easiest thing to do is just, you take it one step at a time and you minimize it. And I'm not saying you minimize, the trauma, which, it could be terrible. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you take it one step at a time and you make that big ball into bite-sized chunks. And you work through it almost systematically, through tears, through rage. It could be happiness, it could be joy from releasing it, whatever it is, right? You do it in small bite-sized chunks to make it more manageable and more easy on yourself. It doesn't have to be a mountain. because climbing a mountain is exhausting. We all know that. But if you have to climb a hill, not so bad. Like a mild sweat, but you're not drenched and you're not like, oh, Jesus Christ, I could get altitude sickness by climbing the mountain.
And for anyone who's getting triggered by this, we recognize that, you know, Alex and I are not PC. We're not actually your coach. Stating the obvious, but we're not coaching you in this moment in time. And so there is always a right time to go to places so if you're stuck not wanting to look at your trauma, that's right for you right now. But what we're trying to encourage is that there are ways to release this without it overtaking you, without it overcoming everything that you are in this moment today. And you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't want to do that, because welcome to and your soul it came in knowing that trauma was possible and able to cope with it. And there's so much within that you can take as a massive, you know, I was going to say ego boost. We probably shouldn't use that terminology when we're being all spiritual about stuff, but actually, you know, take it as real validation of who you are here to be and what you've got the capacity to do. And if you've had the capacity to live with historic trauma, you've damn sure got the capacity to deal with it. Get a team, get people who can help you, get the support around you. But we're not asking you to, and that's the other thing that came up for me when you were saying stuff like that. There are certain individuals for whom in childhood, expressing emotions was unsafe. So expressing emotions in adulthood can be a very, very testy thing. It's not where they feel okay. But the reality that I just want to invite people to contemplate is, are your parents around right now? No. Are the people who made it unsafe for you to express around right now? No. The only person here is you. And if you want to do trauma release or emotional release, you're your safest audience, because you do not need to judge you. You just need to release. And so having those moments where you can emotionally release on your own, whether it's primal screaming outside in the middle of a forest in the middle of nowhere, or whether it's, you know, because if you're not doing this sort of stuff, rest assured you will be irritated with your partner, you'll snap at your kids, you'll, you know, be the frustrated road rager, you'll drink a bit too much to numb things, you'll do all of these other subtle things that you probably won't be too judgmental about, but you won't love it about yourself. And they all have the same root, the same part of like why we feel we have to self-censor as human beings. And we all have it, we all get into it for some reason. And part of like not having to go into deep dark night of the soul trauma is having healthy release techniques, having a healthy ability to just feel the feelings and not let them be a statement on your worth because you're having anger.
It's like you have your feelings and don't judge yourself for having the feelings. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel frustrated, feel sad, feel exasperated, you know, feeling, you know, states of inertia, depression, whatever it is, it's completely valid. We're not, and it's really important just to allow yourself to acknowledge that and to be like, okay, I am feeling this. I actually am feeling this. I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not trying to find an escape route. I'm not trying to bypass it, you know, through, whether it's through, you know, having multiple partners, whether it's through drinking, through drug, through work. You know, there are through exercise, there are so many different avenues in which you try to bury things because you don't want to admit that you have these feelings, because it's incredibly, it's a part of, you know, it's a part of the dark night of the soul journey, depending on how deep down you want to go, is accepting that you have these feelings and this has happened to you and you are okay. You will always be okay. And it always comes, for me, it comes down to how much trust and how much faith you have in yourself and in the universe.
Which is the same thing.
Which is exactly the same thing. And, you know, to those who think, oh, it's different, no.
You're wrong.
You may be a bit wrong, I'm afraid, but please do comment down below, and we're very happy to hear from you.
But to explain that, if you don't see yourself as a fragment of consciousness in the universe, then you haven't got this map of humanity right. Like, we're just manifestations of consciousness in form. So loving the universe, trusting the universe, by default means trust you.
Yeah, exactly. And just know that, as you rightly said, you can handle anything that's been thrown your way, like,
Mm,
because you have chosen to encounter it.
mm, mm.
So you are, as a result, able to work through it. You have to make the choice to work through it.
Yeah. And you don't have
Yeah,
to do that alone. That's a really important.
exactly. It's not about doing it alone, thinking, "Oh, screw the world. It's betrayed me. I'm going to do this alone."
Mm.
Guilty. I've done that. Not very beneficial.
Or being
Straight up.
frightened of like other people's judgments. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, people are going to be judgy. Those are the shitter people. Like, move on.
yeah,
Like, find the people who
yeah,
completely venerate your, particularly the kind of more edgy emotions, like rage, like aggression, like those inner things where, and particularly women, I'm speaking to women, let men be aggressive, like not at you, no violence is condoned, not
no,
in
no, no, no.
any stretch of that imagination. And if there is an aggression and a need for, and you are actually unsafe, please reach out for help, reach out to us. We will support you to get out of those situations, because there's a
Yeah,
complexity to that. However, women in conscious relationships, let your man be a man. Like, let him rage at
yeah.
the television. Let him yell at the sporting team that's losing and get really, let him, do the things that make him powerful, including accurately directed and targeted aggression. That's so
Yeah,
flippin' valuable. And if you're
exactly.
feeling like it's mistargeted, women, your job to help your man get the right expression of aggression, because it's not about suppressing that. He absolutely needs it. But rest assured, he has not been trained in how to do that. So
Yeah,
if you want to be a conscious woman in a partnership, support him to have healthy expression of all of the things, including his tears,
yeah.
including his rage, including his sexuality. All of that is welcome and more.
All of- yeah, because that's all part of the dark night of this whole process. And if you are in a conscious relationship, all I'm going to say is, if one of you is going down the rabbit hole, one of you needs to be the anchor point.
Mm. Oh,
You
anchor
can't both
point.
go.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
fix.
like,
It's not your job.
no, no, just be an anchor point and just hold it, and like, but also don't decide to go down with him, because then you both go down together, and honestly, it's a fucking disaster. There's no
Yeah,
other way to put it.
yeah, an empath's real note to you there, like,
Yeah,
and I maybe we should do a whole separate podcast on empathy, what it is, what it isn't.
yeah,
Empathy
very
is
much so.
not about you drowning in the same water that people around you are drowning in. It's about you
Exactly.
feeling it. And
Yeah,
back to what we were saying last time, if you transmute some of that, you're doing half the work. You don't need to
yeah,
descend into chaos about it, but you can help. You can be there.
yeah,
And being there sometimes is
exactly.
space as well. Like, if somebody asks for space, don't be the clingy girl who's like, no, no, I need you. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Or the clingy man. Like, it goes both ways. It's like, as you were saying, women allow your man to rage and everything. Men allow your woman to do that too.
Mm,
Don't take it personally. Allow her to be in her emotion. She's naturally, more so than men, she's more emotional.
mm,
It's just the way that we are designed,
mm,
and don't think, oh, it makes her crazy or whatever it is.
mm.
It's like, allow her to express those emotions and just be the anchor point, and just be like, cool, okay, well, I'm not going anywhere. What she needs to see is that you're not going anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
you can just be like, okay, well, this is, as you say, like, this is just a phase. And
Yeah.
she's like, it's not a phase, this is who I am. And it's like, no, this is a phase, I'm not going anywhere. It's okay. Like, rage out, cry out, bitch out, gossip, whatever you need to do to just get it out.
Yeah.
And like, just be there. And that goes for both people, men and women, or if you're a gay couple, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because we
You're
are speaking to the masculine and feminine in people rather than genders.
exactly, not genders, exactly. So when we talk about it, it's more, energy. Who holds that energy more?
And just to speak on like trauma wounding, one of the most prevalent wounds is abandonment.
Oh
And
yeah,
women will feel that so deeply. So to have a man say, I hear you, I'm not going to cry with you because that won't help, but I'm not going anywhere, is so important. It's so important. And I've had conversations with people who are on the path to being aware. And the way they've approached it is like, you're coming at me with a lot of emotionality. It's not helping me. can you stop? And I'm like, whoa, no, you were nearly there. You had the insight to know that it was my emotionality that was triggering you.
Yeah.
But asking me to stop that is absolutely the wrong move.
Yeah, just ask, how can I be of service to you? Do you need me to get you ice cream? Do you need me to take you out for a walk? Do you need me to just shut the fuck up and just be in the room with you? Or do you need me to just be next door whilst you beat the pillows up or go in the bath and whatever you're choosing to do? Yeah, communicate. And I feel that's a massive, massive part of it. It's also why I kind of, I'm going to be very bold and say it's why I disagree with some of what David Data says. Some of the stuff that he says, where it's like, you're just going to do it, you're just going to be there. And I'm like, no. It's about communication, and you empower each other through communicating what you need, and you don't impose your energy on the other, because that may not be what they need, and it doesn't actually make them stronger long term. You don't allow them to go into their process. You are kind of trying to force them out of their process by showering them with love or trying to make them laugh, whatever it is. Just communicate and allow them to find the words to communicate where they are at and what they need.
And if it's I don't know, it's I don't know. If it's they ask for one thing, you do it perfectly and they pick it apart, that's what it is for now. And that's just, and the whole conscious like couples at the moment a thing. Certainly it's a thing in the media that I consume, because that's
it's been a massive trendy thing, I have to say. And I truly don't know how many people understand what a conscious relationship is and what it actually entails.
Well, you've opened that can of worms. Go on then, Frace. What's a conscious relationship? What does it entail?
Essentially everything that we kind of just spoken about. It's like you start communicating from a place of service. You are of service. You are not there to heal them. You are not there to fix them. You are part of each other's journey for a specific amount of time, which may be your whole lives. It could be 2 months. It could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 years. The time is irrelevant at the end of the day. You're there to be in a state of service to the other person. And there are so many things that come with service. It's really like, it's probably a podcast on its own, if I'm honest.
Absolutely. And we will do, we have planned podcasts on, masculine dynamics, and maybe we'll roll like conscious coupledom into that. But I just want to make the point that when we're talking about dark nights of the soul, this is a conscious relationship is not two people who've done their work and are healed. That's not it. It's two people who are still on the journey, still sometimes in the gutter, sometimes not, holding space for each other to be them. That's it. And it's, let's be completely clear and honest. Alex and I are both talking about this, not in, I'm not in a conscious couple. I don't know if Alex wants to volunteer his status of conscious coupledom or not, but I'm certainly not in a conscious couple right now.
Not currently.
Now I'm so tempted to go, this sounds like there's somebody on the horizon that Alex wants to be in a conscious couple with, but I'm not gonna embarrass him like that on our podcast.
My conscious coupling is my baby, the business. That is my conscious couple right now. I'm not gonna lie. That's my darling right there.
True. And we shall do a whole podcast on Alex's business because it's pretty amazing. But when it comes to the whole kind of idea of this, it's very much like the idea of the dark night of the soul. People think that they have to drop off grid for like months. Like Secret, whilst I did, and anyone who knows my history knows I dropped off the grid for like years, if not a decade, over a decade, 13 and a half years. Yay. But you don't need to. You can be in the middle of a dark night of the soul, still going to work every day. I mean, going is a moot point in COVID land, but attending Zoom every day for work. And you can still do that. Because dark night of the soul really is just digging your stuff. And you can do that part-time. That sounds terrible, but you'll always be in it, because the thing that I would like people to trust about when they're going through processes is that every part of their life at that point is fueling that same process. So the stressful conversations you have at work that start to take a different turn, it's feeding into the same thing that you're working on. The arguments with your partner, it's feeding into the same thing. It's all the symbols you see on the street, the random road signs, they're all part of the same thing that are designed to influence you, to help you marinate in and move through whatever the thing is inside you that you're trying to release.
Exactly. It's like slow cooking versus high heat blasting, if you know what I mean. Like, that's a nice, easy, potential analogy to use. So it's like when you're doing it part time, you're stewing slowly, and you're allowing different spices, different flavors,
Yeah.
triggers, aspects to come into the
Yeah.
into the stew and to help change you. And it gives you an opportunity at a slower pace to learn the things that you need to learn. That is not the route that I personally took in the past when I really was in it. It's the route that I'm currently taking right now. So having experienced both, they're both very different energies, and you'll do different aspects, and I dropped off the grid for a good few years, and there are periods of my life where I was doing nothing, and I was just doing the work and working through ancestral stuff, and I was still seeing occasional clients here and there, but it's very easy to get locked in and to tie yourself away and to think, oh my God, I'm all alone, or does anybody really know what I'm going through? And I find it's when you don't have that support network, it's a bit more difficult. Or if you're trying to break out of a friends group who has zero interest in what you're trying to learn, and you are naturally more of an introverted person, like I'm a hermit. Anyone who knows me knows I am a hermit. It does make it slightly more hard to go out and potentially meet others, but it shouldn't stop you from going to do that. And over time, funny enough, living kind of more of my human design over the past few years, first kind of without realizing it, and then obviously since we've become more conscious of it, but waiting for that invitation, to have those conversations, to meet people, to go out and do things, and then is that invitation the right invitation? Sometimes no, but also I always think yes in certain aspects, because there's something for you to learn in having taken that invitation. So sometimes for me it was like go out to a party or go out to like a dinner party, and I'm like, why the Joseph am I here? Like, what am I doing here? And then there'd be one person, and I always say there's at least always one person who I am meant to have a conversation with that will make my evening, will either help my life or will help their life, or best case scenario, mutually help both of our lives, and I can walk away enriched from that. And that's worth celebrating.
Yeah, and when you know how you make decisions, it's really obvious when it's a yes, a no but yes, rather than a yes. Those things, it's like but like, oh yes, rather than a yes. And just like, this is just self-awareness, and I think we probably skipped over the most relevant bit of like, what is a dark night of the soul for? And the reality is it's to release some stuff, some pattern that you've been playing out.
It's to release your not self stuff and to make you self. It's
In
just to make you who you are.
And that's, you can do that in bite-sized chunks. You can like just release the pattern that you've noticed that day, or you can spend, like I did, decades in the trenches, like continually facing stuff that, God, I wouldn't wish my journey on my worst enemy. Like, that's not like, because I know I could take it. I always knew I could take it.
And it's like, just because you could take it doesn't mean that they could take it.
Exactly. And that doesn't make me phenomenal and fantastic, because ultimately, like, I'm so much is quote unquote missing from my life because the way I lived it, and that hurts me. That's my traumas to this day. That's the things that I'm working through right now. Like, as we speak, I'm conscious of things that I'm kind of like, ugh, and what is it that within me that needs to release to allow that to come in?
Exactly. What needs to be released, and then what do I need to bring in place of it, so to speak? Like, what can I put in its place? Because people are like, oh, I've removed all these triggers and I removed all my ancestral patterns, and I've been through my dark night of the soul, and I'm free, and I'm finally me. No. Sorry, no, because you've just unplugged a whole bunch of holes, and you're very holy, and not in the Jesus Christ way, more in the Swiss cheese way. You're very holy, my friend. You need to fill those holes with something, whether, instead of saying, oh, I'm not good enough, it's replacing yourself with self-esteem. Whether it's, oh, you drink because it's a form of, disrespecting yourself. So you put in self-respect. You put in self-love, you put in compassion, you put in forgiveness, you put in gratitude, you put in all these different aspects to make yourself whole, because then they turn into habits, for the lack of a better term. They just, not even habits, they become a part of you, and they are you. They are the new and improved you. They are you 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 0.0 to infinity type vibes. You know what I mean? So it's about allowing yourself to feel the holiness within yourself with multitudes of wonderful things which you are worthy of, and it is your natural sovereign birthright to have them. We've just forgotten that very simple act, and I feel one of the most important aspects of Dark Nights of the Soul is remembering that you are a sovereign being, you are God, and you are free.
And it's so like the easiest thing in the world should be to be yourself, but for some reason human beings make
so
it
hard.
the hardest fucking thing. And and like it's even harder because of our own denial on it, like, or our own kind of ignorance. It's like, and these things will only ever be revealed in layers, guys. This is not like, well, some lucky people get that enlightenment moment and they have like a spiritual experience, and like, you know, like I'm not one of those people. I've never had one of those things.
I have.
Because you're just amazing. But also I've never taken a plant medicine. So I've never had a journey on anything, literally nothing ever. Like I've never even done drugs. The only thing that I've done in my life is drink alcohol. So, and I don't know why also, like I have friends who, I've got a colleague of ours is now on synthesis psychedelic retreat training. So interesting, might come back in my life somewhere. But and that's a really good point that we've missed. It's really sexy to do psychedelic trips right now, and we will do a podcast on it. But like,
100%.
Yeah, but you don't have to go on a magic mushroom trip to have a spiritual experience. Like my life has been a spiritual experience. It's not bells, whistles. I've met Christ consciousness in physical, but I know it to be true with every fiber of my being because of what I've been through. And it's a very different experience. And I always think people like Luke Story and Alison Charles are very interesting in this dynamic, because Luke is very kind of like psychedelic plants all the time, and Alison's very like, actually, no, I just locked myself in a room for 10 years and didn't like, that was my work.
Alison who, sorry?
Alison Charles, it's Luke Story's fiance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they, such a good match, and one of them conscious couples, but like he's very plant medicine, and she's very okay occasionally, but actually my own meditation practice, my own self-work, my own journey, and
it's the integration of it.
But yeah, and that's not to denigrate plant medicine. Sometimes humans are so flipping like blinkered that you actually need those to open a doorway. Whereas I didn't. I just like nearly died. Like, oh well, that'll do it.
That is a spiritual experience within itself, and it's like, you know, I've had some major spiritual awakenings without actually taking plant medicine. It's like just by reading certain things at the right time and then experiencing it. It was just like my third eye, and all I could see was just white. It was just like one of those moments. And you know, different people will have, I think it's really important to emphasize this, as you can, for those of you listening and those of you watching, like we have both had different, let's say, spiritual awakening moments. So certain people it comes in layers like an onion, and other people it just comes out like a massive explosion, and then it's about integrating that said explosion into your life. And also, they're both just as valuable.
And it speaks to how to be spiritual. Like I don't think I've ever sat with my third eye beaming white light. I don't think I've ever it's been a block for me, because I've been waiting to feel the thing that I've read about in the shamanic texts of like, you know, awakening moments, or I've been waiting to feel that thing that I've heard about on podcasts where people have said, oh, this is my DMT experience. And, you know, I've never felt that, but, and it like a huge block that I only shifted a couple of weeks ago, where I was like, oh, so that thing that is just like really present inside me, that's my own intuition. It doesn't have to be a voice from the heavens or a, you know, crazy spiritual like whisper from a spirit guide. That's not how I do this. This is very much, it's in me, it's from me, it's as me, not something else. And I think it's very the world of spirituality is drowned by spiritualistic people, you know, robes and candles.
Charlatans.
Yeah, some people I'm sure are doing it genuinely, and other people are not. Other people are, you know, if I've got enough candles and crystals, I am spiritual. And it's like, oh, okay.
Okay, baby.
Maybe, maybe not.
You do you, and I'm gonna go over there,
Yeah.
and I'm going to put you into the bin. And
Not that we're a fan of cancel culture, guys. That's not what this podcast is
no.
doing.
We're having some fun with it. It's just, you know, there's a lot of fluffy, guffy, wuffy, puffy shit.
Yeah.
For the lack of a better term, and those are the people who, if you say Dark Knight of the Soul, would have read up on it, and you're like, oh yes, I've read about it and I know it. I'm like, all right, well, tell me about your experience then. But they can't, because they haven't felt their feelings, they haven't allowed themselves to go down, and all the, you know, the tarot cards and all the crystals and all of the everything is a way to externalize everything else, which you rightly said, everything is you. You know, you don't need to contact angels, you don't need to contact spirit guides or whatever, because it's all a part of you at the end of the day. It's all you. And if you're going to contact anything, in my opinion, you contact source, the divine, the spirit, which is within you. So you go into your heart space and you contact it from that space.
And this is not to denigrate, and I know a couple, probably more than that, have really tapped in, like, people who hear stuff, people who, for whom the experience of the divine is an external reality, but it's an external internal reality, and that like total respect. Like, I've got no problem with that being a kind of way of doing it. But I just want to give a shout out to people like me who, like, for so long my narrative has been, I really need to connect to my spirituality. I really need to connect to my spiritual self. Simultaneously, I really need to come into my body, because I felt very disconnected from it for a lot of years because of all the things I've been through. And it took a really powerful moment of just blasting through those things and thinking, oh, so, like, actually what's keeping me out of my body is not really realizing that my spirituality is in my body. Oh, what a dipshit, Victoria. Like, you absolutely No, I swear to God, it's like taken me a long time to get to that. And I'm not joking, listeners. It's the 11th of April, 2021. And I got that about 2 weeks ago. I started on this journey 18 years ago. And my goal was never to become spiritual. That wasn't the thing. But I've always had this sense that I've got deep connections and intuitions. And that's a lot of what my dark nights of the soul were trying to get out of me, the kind of gumph that I'd put in the way between, like, myself but the end point was like, oh, okay, so now I'm going to hear voices and see angels and, like, witness miracles on a daily basis and turn water into wine, and, like, that was kind of like, that will mean I'm there. And actually it took some really intelligent, clever, just people who live from their soul to go, strikes me that you're already intuitive. And I was like, oh. And that's when you realize that it's actually in you, it's not out there.
No, I mean, you know, when you, so you are, you know, you are part of everything, and you are source, and you are spirit, and there are higher dimensions, and there are higher dimensional beings, and all this other stuff. And as far as I've understood, and as far as, you know, as I've seen, and, you know, source is source, spirit, the divine, whatever you want to call it, it is still a part of you. And the reason why you can access it is because you are one and the same. You are just, you know, call it 13 dimensions, densities removed from it, and you are in the physical incarnate form. You're not an energy light being. You are the dense matter kind of version working through everything, because you're on Earth, which is school, which is learning. You know, it's a tough place to evolve, and to go back and to continually feed the information system up there.
And that's why I get irritated by the term light worker. It's like, no, you're an earth worker.
You're an earth worker.
You're a dull, dense matter worker.
You live on Earth. It's important to do earthly things, and for those who go through Dark Nights of the Souls, it goes one of three ways. Let's say, you know, you can become an earth worker, you can become a super light worker, where you are literally perpetually stuck working in the spiritual realms and the spiritual fields, and you're doing all the grid work and clearing and X, Y, and Z, which is incredibly beneficial, and that's kind of what we need. But you live in the modern day world, and if you are not grounded, and here, your body will literally start disintegrating. You will start getting ill because the amount of high energy there is not the same here, and it is not compatible. I don't care who you are, it is not compatible within our current DNA strands and the way in which we work currently. But in the future, when our DNA opens up more for the future generations, they will be able to handle it.
Yeah.
So we are laying the groundwork for them, which is why some of us are going through these heavy dark nights of the soul to be more pillars to anchor that energy, so others don't have to. And it's not like, oh, by the way, say, thank me for doing the work, and I'm a pillar of light. And no, it's not about that, dude. It's honestly, it's a thankless job, and it's not meant to be a thankful job. It is meant to be, you're here for a reason. Do your mission. Stop complaining. This is what you signed up for. The only reason why you want external validation is because you're trapped in an egotistical concept of needing, love to be received to you.
Yeah. And if you need that external validation, hello, there's your next Dark Night of the Soul mission. Like, go fix it.
Exactly. Like, learn to turn your eye inwardly. People I see loads of people who are like, I want external vision. I want to be able to see angels and beings and all of that. And I'm like, trust me, you really don't. Because you really, really don't want that. What you need is to turn that eye internally, and then you'll see everything inside that is stopping you from being you, which is more valuable, more important to everyone, including yourself.
And just to say, like, if anybody's been a bit triggered during this conversation, is like, am I like just escaping into spirituality? Maybe. And look at leaving patterns. So look at everywhere you escape. So do you escape into like mindless television watching? Do you escape into novels? Do you escape into, mindless sex with everyone? Do you like multiple partners? Do you escape into your spirituality? Is it your safe place to go off with the fairies? And if it is, just respect that you've got some trauma there that actually you feel like you needed to leave. And that might have been being born, guys. Like, that might literally be incarnation. And you need to I still need to work on this bit, which is like, my consciousness didn't love that it signed up for this job. I mean, clearly it did, but like, there's a struggle. And
oh, I'm with you there.
So
that one.
So I was born in the call because like my body really did not want to take my first breath. I did not want to be here. I just did not want to come. Like, no. And yet, like, that I'm becoming more okay with being here the more life goes on ish.
You learn to
do stuff.
Like, you learn to enjoy life for more what it is and what you can enjoy out of it. And there are moments of incredible joy and love and serenity and all the wonderful adjectives.
Really? Great. When do they come? Are they soon?
They're very transient. They come and then they go, and then you're like, oh god, I'm back here again.
I'm joking, guys. Like, my life is weird. Like, they are there. I promise you.
Like, life is a bit of a roller coaster, and you just gotta
ride it.
You gotta ride it, and you gotta make sure that you have the right people who are on the roller coaster journey with you. Like, who do you want in the carriages with you?
So important.
And it doesn't mean that every time you go on the roller coaster, you're going down, like you go with the same people. Sometimes you need to change your people, and that is okay. Like, you have to change your team if you want to change as well.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling the pull to do Dark Night of the Soul work and you feel like the team around you is not conducive to that, wait till you've got a conducive team, but like, focus on switch it up, because you really need to feel like you have an infrastructure around you that can take the different you. Like, because if you show up with your friends and you're like different and they can't see it and they want to put you back in the box that you're used to playing with, the identities and the labels that you're used to owning, that's going to be a real difficult integration step, because you're just going to feel slapped across the face for doing good, deep work. So change up your team, find your cheerleaders. I've got like running jokes with people at the moment about cheerleading, and it's like, everyone needs cheerleaders. Like, this is not external validation. This is people cheering you on, going, yeah, you're doing it.
Exactly. Get yourself a cheerleading squad, get yourself some pom-poms, ruffle them, have a chant. Happy days.
On that somewhat wise, somewhat strange anecdote, I feel that our podcast is naturally coming to a close. How about you?
I feel complete, and I feel as if the pom-poms are ruffling and my cheerleaders are saying go team Fenton and Frace.
Absolutely. And with your pom-poms, please, everyone, like, share, subscribe, follow, leave reviews, do the things that you need to do for podcasts to tell everyone that we're amazing. Tell your friends, share our majesty with the world. Yeah, be our cheerleaders. That would be useful.
Be our cheerleaders. Thank you. Exactly. We love you guys already.
All three of you.